But what happens at this very point? What happens at this very point at which the phase 2 begins? At phase 2, you see there is a plateau phase, and this plateau phase means that the membrane potential remains somewhat stable from this point to this point. Okay, this is the plateau phase, and during this phase the membrane potential somewhat remains stable. It doesn't change much. That means that during this phase 2, what's happening, that the potassium ions are leaving the cell, but at the same time voltage gated calcium channels, which are known as slow calcium channels, because they open slowly and they also close slowly. That's why it takes time. And what happens, that this plateau prolongs this depolarization. And this phase is because of, first, due to opening of the calcium channels, slow calcium channels, and these slow calcium channels are also known as L type of calcium channels. L means long lasting. L stands for long lasting, and these calcium channels open up, allowing the calcium ions to enter the cardiac muscle fibers. You know, the calcium ions, they have a positive charge, so they carry the positive charge into, but at the same time the potassium ions are also leaving and they also have positive charges, you know that. So what happens, that there is an equilibrium between the calcium influx and the potassium efflux. So a balance is created between influx of the calcium and outflux of the potassium. That means that number of positive charges going out is equal to the number of positive charges going in. You know, the potassium goes out, okay, positive, and the calcium goes in, which is also positive. So what happens, that these two balance each other, and this depolarization is prolonged, and this membrane potential does not go back to the resting membrane potential rapidly. It slows down, a plateau is created, and this depolarization is prolonged. In the guidance, it is said that at this very point, what happens, that during this phase 2, that the potassium permeability is reduced, as you can see from here. The permeability of the potassium ions is actually, during phase 2, the permeability, the outward current of the potassium, outward current is reduced, while the inward current of the calcium ion is increased. So the calcium is going inward, you see that, and the outward potassium permeability is decreased, and during this phase a balance is created between the influx of the calcium and the outflux of the potassium, so that the membrane potential somewhat remains stable during phase 2, and this is the phase which is known as plateau phase. Okay,